Hi, and welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this video, we're going to learn the 2 to 4 player game Thunder Road Vendetta, designed by Brett Myers and Dave Chalker, and published by Restoration Games, who helped sponsor this video. This reimagining of the 1986 classic retains the same relentless road racing at breakneck speeds with danger around every swerve, but also adds in some new twists to all the car smashing and chopper fire. So join me at the table, and let's learn how to play. To set up, go through these various double-sided road tiles and pay particular attention to the chapter headings here at the top. Look for Chapter 1 and notice that every tile has an A and a B side. Use either side of this chapter and place it on the table to become your rear road tile. Then shuffle the remaining tiles, randomizing which sides are face up to create the road tile stack. You'll now draw and set the top tile in front of the rear one. This becomes the middle road. Then draw one more to be the lead tile. These make up the first stretch of highway that the players will be racing on. Set the remaining tiles and this finish line nearby for use later. All the tokens with this back are known as the hazards, which you'll shuffle face down. And then, without looking at their other sides, you'll add one face down to each of the spaces on the highway marked with this matching red hazard symbol. The only exception is the starting rear tile. Only add tokens to the symbols showing your number of players. We'll assume that we have 3 players in this video, so we'll leave these 2-player only spaces empty. It'll look something like this when you're done, and then you keep the leftover hazard tokens in a pile nearby. Now find the damage tokens, which have this back, and shuffle them into a face-down pile nearby, and with them put the FX dice and car wrecks. Each player now picks a color and collects the matching command tile and 3 dashboards labeled as small, medium, and large. You then place these in order from small to large to the right of your command tile. You also collect the 3 matching colored cars, chopper, and 4 movement dice. Each car is related to one of your 3 dashboards based on their size. This one for your small car, one for your medium vehicle, and this one for your largest racer. Every player now sets their cars to the left of the rear road tile in what is known as the starting area. Players now roll their movement dice, and the person with the lowest total becomes the first player. If there had been a tie for the lowest value, all players re-roll until there's no lowest total tie. Once the first player has been decided, they collect this gray road die. They now roll and set it by the highway where it can easily be seen. The dice the players roll to determine the first player should not be changed because their values will be used at the start of the game, as we'll see. And that's the setup. In Thunder Road Vendetta, you'll use your dice to propel your vehicles down the track, trying to avoid hazards, choppers, and a variety of dangers. That said, if you can create some danger for your opponents, perhaps by slamming into them or leaving them spun out in the dust, well, that's just part of the game. Be the first player to send any one of your cars across the finish line, or be the last player with cars still in the race, and you win. The game is played over a series of rounds, and each is broken into turns. But before players take any turns at the start of a round, they each roll their 4 dice, and the first player rolls the road die. Now this is skipped for the very first round of the game because we already did that as part of the setup to determine who would be the first player. Turns are now taken, starting with the first player and going clockwise around and around the table. And on your turn, you'll resolve 4 steps in order, beginning with the assign step. Here you pick any one of your unassigned movement dice and add it to the center of any of your car dashboards that don't have a die anywhere on it yet. The value on the die will determine how many spaces that car moves in a later step. We'll learn a few other ways that dice can be assigned to dashboards, but those will make more sense once we've learned more of the rules, so we'll wait and come back and explain that later. Now, after assigning a single die to a car dashboard, you move to the Activate a Command step of your turn. And this will also make a bit more sense once we know more of the rules, so we'll come back to this later as well, and instead go right to the 3rd step of a player's turn, moving. Here you move the car you assigned a die to in the first step of your turn, spending its value as movement points. So in this case, we'd be able to move our medium car 4 spaces. The first move any car makes is to enter any space of the rear tile's back edge. After that, each move it makes must be into one of the 3 spaces of the car's front arc. So here, here, or here in this case. And each space shows a type of terrain which costs an amount of movement points to enter. For example, gray spaces are known as road, while these lighter spaces are off-road. And both cost 1 point of your die's move value to enter. So with 4 points at the start of the game, I might go 1, 2, 3, 4. Some spaces might show these hazard symbols printed on them, but if they don't contain a hazard token, they have no extra effect on your car. During the move step, you must move the full amount of your car's assigned die, unless something stops you. Now, to learn about the rest of the terrain, I'm just going to put cars in various spaces of the board to create the situations that we need to learn about. For example, dark brown spaces like this are known as mud and cost 2 of your movement points to enter. So a move from here to here would cost 1, 2, 3, 4 points. However, if you have only 1 point of movement left during this step, you can still use it to enter a muddy space. So if I was here and I had 3 points of movement, I could go 1, 2, 3. Now, spaces like this with a double yellow border around it are impassable, and a car that enters an impassable space is eliminated. And I'll explain what happens to an eliminated car a little later. If you're curious, yes, you can choose to drive into an impassable space on purpose and eliminate your own car if you want. And when you're playing, you may actually find reasons to do this. As turns continue in the game, more and more cars will enter the board, and you can choose to drive into a space with another vehicle, even one of your own. If you do this, you lose any movement points you might have had remaining, and then you stack your car on top of the one that was already there. You then immediately resolve what is known as a slam, and you do this by rolling both this slam and direction die. After, if one of the vehicles is larger than the other, the player with the larger vehicle may re-roll both dice a single time, but if they choose to do this, they must re-roll both dice. A player could even do this if they controlled both cars in a slam, but either way, you now resolve the final result. Start with the red slam die. This shows a solid white symbol to indicate either the bottom or the top car. That car is then moved in the direction of the direction die. The solid yellow symbol on this die represents the car's current position. So rotate this die so that it matches the same direction as the spaces on the board. The yellow outlined space is the one the car on the red die now moves into. So in this case, the bottom car moves into this space, whereas a result like this would have pushed it straight ahead. It's also possible that a slam would cause a car to go into a space with another car, and then another slam would have to be resolved there. And you'd keep resolving slams until each space has only one road vehicle in it. Now, although a slammed car loses any remaining movement points it might have had, you still resolve any effects of the space a car is slammed into. Speaking of which, let's go back to learning about the various types of spaces you might drive or be slammed into during your move step. If you enter a space with one of these hazard tokens, immediately turn it face up and resolve it. These will have various effects, so let's go through each one. Treat this as a regular road space costing 1 point of movement, so if you have move points left, keep driving. If you reveal a mud space, it costs 2 points of your movement as normal, and again, you keep driving if you have points left over after. On this tile, we find an oil slick, and after entering this hazard, immediately roll the direction die and resolve it, moving your car into the indicated space. A move you're forced to make from an oil slick does not cost any movement points, so if you have any left over, keep driving. That said, if an oil slick was to send you into an impassable space, your car is eliminated. I should mention, if an oil slick or any result of the direction die would force your car off the road, it's also eliminated. You can also be slammed off the road. And yes, if you're curious, you can choose to drive or slam your own car off the road and eliminate it on purpose. All 3 of the hazards we've seen so far stay on the road after they're revealed to potentially affect other vehicles. However, these next 2 are discarded after they're resolved. If you reveal this hazard, it means there was a car wreck on the road, so add one of these pieces to the space and place your car on top of it. You then resolve a slam, as we learned about earlier, and wrecks are considered small vehicles for the purposes of determining slam rerolls. If the hazard reveals a mine, your car loses any remaining movement point it has and takes a damage. Anytime your car takes damage, reveal one of these tokens and resolve its effect. For example, here you move one space in the direction shown. And after a damage effect is resolved, you place the token face down under that car's dashboard. With a single damage, the car still functions as normal. However, if a car takes a second damage, it becomes inoperable and you flip its dashboard face down. You also turn the car backwards on the road as a visual reminder of this. And while inoperable, a car can't take additional damage and can't be assigned any movement dice during the first step of a turn. But it can be affected by FX dice, for example, if it's slammed. As we saw earlier, when you take damage, you draw the top token from the stack, flip it over, and resolve its effect. Skid, we learned about earlier. Dent has no printed effect, but you still assign it to your car as damage. Then there's also Shrapnel, Dazed, and Blast Off. These last two use this stunt die, and I'm going to leave these effects for you to discover when you're playing. If you draw one of these, just refer to the back of the rulebook where it explains how they work. The important thing to keep in mind is that as soon as you have any 2 damage tokens assigned to your car, it becomes inoperable. Because an inoperable car can't be assigned movement dice, it's basically useless, but it's not considered eliminated, because as we'll see later, an inoperable car can be repaired, allowing it to drive again. However, when a car is eliminated, it can't be repaired, and instead, you immediately remove its model and dashboard from the game. If it had a die, you keep the die, but it can't be used again this round, so just keep it separate from any other unused dice you still have. And any damage tokens it might have had are now shuffled back into the damage token pile. Okay, with that we've covered all the unique symbols you might find on hazard tokens, and as mentioned, most will stay on the board except for mines and wrecks, which get discarded after they've been resolved. Once a hazard token has been removed from its space, the hazard symbol here has no effect on the cars that enter it in the future. These choppers are not road vehicles, so they don't enter the board the way cars do. And we'll see how they enter the game soon, but just know a car can move through a chopper's space without penalty. However, if your car is in a chopper's space at the end of a turn, yours or another player, your car is eliminated even if the chopper is also yours. With that, we've covered the core rules of movement, so now let's discuss this road die which was rolled at the start of the round. On each player's turn, if their car starts the move step on a road space, which you'll remember are these gray ones, and then only moves on gray road spaces, then after, they can choose to continue moving using the value of the road die. This extra movement doesn't have to be on road spaces, and you don't have to use this die if you don't want to, but if you do, you must move its full amount. I should mention, you can also use the road die when a car enters the race from off the board, as long as the first space it enters is a road, and the rest of its move that turn is only on other road spaces. Also notice the oil slick hazard has a gray background, so it counts as a road space for being able to use the road die on your turn, as long as it doesn't force you onto a non-road space first. So with that, we've covered the assign and move step of your turn. So I just want to go back to the assign step to explain something I skipped over earlier. At the beginning of the game, everyone's cars start off the board, but with each turn taken, new cars enter the race, and as we saw, cars can take damage, become inoperable, or be eliminated. When a car is inoperable, its dashboard is flipped face down, and dice can no longer be assigned to it. When eliminated, the car and dashboard are removed from the game. In both cases, you have fewer cars to assign dice to. And remember, during the assign step of your turn, you have to assign a die to a dashboard that doesn't have one already. But in this case, that's not possible. Only in a situation like this can you assign a die to one of your dashboards that already has one, but it must go onto this coast space of a car that moved previously this round. Later, if you're forced to coast again, which we would be in this case, the 2 dots here act as a reminder that at most, each car can have 2 coasting dice assigned to it. After assigning a coast die to a car, during your move step, you move that car exactly 1 space, ignoring the value on the die itself. If you coasted, you may not use the road die. And keep in mind, you cannot assign a die to coasting if you have an operable car with no dice assigned to it yet. Okay, there's one other assign step rule we can now go over. Once per round, and that's very important, it's once per round, not turn, in addition to assigning a die to a car. You may also add an unused die to one of the 4 command spaces found on the corners of your command board. However, you can't do this if your movement die was assigned for coasting this turn. Immediately following the assign step of your turn is the command step. Now, earlier, we skipped right from your assign step to your move step because the command step is only resolved on the turn you added a die to your command board. So now, let's learn how that command step works. During this step, resolve the command die you assigned that turn. If the die was assigned here on a previous turn, it's ignored. Now, to add a die to this Nitro corner, it must have a value from 1 to 3. And then you add the value showing here to the move die your car received, which could result in a total movement higher than 6, and as usual, you must move the full amount. Only a 6 can be assigned to the repair command, and then during the command step, you shuffle one of the damage tokens from any of your cars that have damage back into the damage token draw pile. Now, if the car had been inoperable, this makes it operable again, and then may be moved on a later turn this round if you still have dice remaining that you could assign to it. Only a 3, 4, or 5 can be placed on this drift command, which allows you to ignore the first time you enter a space with another road vehicle that turn. Don't slam it, just keep moving. Any car you pass through after that is slammed as normal. Now that said, if the very first car you encounter is on the last space of your move, then you have to slam. The final command is the Airstrike, and any die value can be placed here. To resolve this, add your chopper to any empty space of the board, which is any without a road vehicle, chopper, hazard token, or impassable terrain. After the chopper is placed, it may then shoot a road vehicle, even your own, in any space in its front arc. Here, here, or here. If you have more than one target, you pick just one. And also note, a chopper can't target another chopper. With a valid target picked, you shoot by rolling this shooting die, and if its letters match the size of the targeted vehicle, M for medium, S for small, and L for large, then the vehicle is hit and takes a damage by drawing and resolving a damage token. You then add that damage token to the vehicle's dashboard as usual. The smaller the car, the fewer sides that hit it, but this side counts as a hit for any car. The chopper can also shoot one of these wrecks. This counts as a small vehicle and is removed from the board as soon as it takes 1 damage. Just know, although a chopper can enter the board during the very first round, any that do won't shoot. Nothing shoots until after the first round of the game, so you may want to wait and bring them out later. Also note, choppers can't shoot cars in their own space, but instead, as we learned, at the end of any player's turn, even in the first round, all cars in the same space as a chopper are eliminated. Okay, we now know the first 3 steps of a player's turn. First, they assign a die to a car, and may assign another die to a command once per round. Then they resolve their command, if any, and the third step is moving the car they assigned a die to. The final step is the shoot phase. Here, the car you moved this turn may shoot its guns, but like choppers, nothing can shoot during the first round of the game. So for these examples, we'll assume it's the second round. Just like a chopper, a car can shoot a single road vehicle in its front arc. It can even target one of its own cars, but it can't shoot a chopper. It can target a wreck though, treating it as a small car. A car even resolves its shoot step, whether it resolved the slam that turn or only coasted. That said, an inoperable car can't shoot. Otherwise, a car shot is resolved just like a chopper shot. You roll the shooting die and land a hit if the target matches the size shown on the result. Choppers don't shoot during this step of the turn. Choppers only shoot during the command step of a turn where they were brought onto the board. And those are the 4 steps of a turn. Assign a die, resolve a command if necessary, move, and then shoot. At the end of your turn, if you had assigned a die to the center of a car's dashboard, slide it to this end turn space. As we learned, this car cannot be assigned a movement die later, but may be able to coast if the previously explained conditions allow. At the end of every turn, also check every chopper on the board, and any car or wreck in a chopper's space is immediately eliminated. Then the next player in clockwise order takes their turn, and turns will continue like this until each player has taken 3 turns. That ends the round, and then the road die is passed clockwise, making that person the start player for the next round. The next round starts with every player collecting all 4 of their movement dice from wherever they are and rolling them, and also you make sure that the road die is rolled for the next round as well. With that, we now know many of the rules, but I'm guessing some of you are wondering about a particular situation we haven't discussed yet. What happens when a car moves off the end of the road? As soon as a car moves off the front of the lead road tile, first, eliminate all cars still on the rear tile. They fell too far behind and were left in the dust. You can also remove any wrecks there. Now place all hazard tokens on that rear tile in a face-up discard pile. Any choppers on the rear tile are now returned to their owners, and then the rear tile is flipped over and added to the bottom of the road draw pile. You then draw the top road and add it to the front of the 2 roads that remain. So we're going to just slide all of this all the way back, putting the car onto the space that it would have moved into. These are now the new rear, middle, and lead tiles. You now add a random face-down hazard from the supply to each of the hazard spaces on the new lead tile. And if you ever run out of hazards to draw, just shuffle the discarded ones into a new draw pile. Now the player who caused the lead tile to be placed spends any movement points they had left. Turns continue as normal, but in a 2-player game, you need to keep track of how many tiles have been used so far. Because as soon as a 5th tile has entered play, it becomes the final tile of the game, and then you add this double-sided finish line tile to the end, and which side you use doesn't matter. As soon as any one car enters the finish line tile from any space of the final tile, that player is declared the winner. You don't have to get all of your cars to the finish line, just one. The game also ends if there's only one player still left in the race. A player is out of the race if all of their cars are eliminated and or inoperable. When this happens, their chopper is removed from play, their inoperable cars are left on the road, and for the rest of the game, they stop taking turns. If this is a 2-player game, since there's only one player left, then that remaining player wins. But if you have more than 2 players, as we do here, then after a player is eliminated, the race still continues for the remaining players. But now you add this finish line panel to the end of the lead road, making it the final tile. So unlike a 2-player game, this is only added in a game with 3 or more players once one of the players is eliminated. Again, any player who gets one of their cars onto the finish line first wins. Or if a player is the only one left with an operable car, they win. This video covered everything that comes in the retail version of the game. But if you bought the game through Kickstarter and have that edition, or picked up some of the expansion content from the publisher or a retailer, those extra rules I'll leave for you to discover on your own. But otherwise, that's everything you need to know to play Thunder Road Vendetta. If you have any questions at all about anything you saw here, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. You'll also find forums for discussion, pictures, other videos, and lots more over on the games page at Board Game Geek, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like, subscribing, and clicking that little bell icon so you get notification anytime we post a new video. And if you'd like to support us directly, you can join our Patreon team, which I'll have linked below. But until next time, thanks for watching.